Good afternoon. Welcome to NUFC Talk TV with myself and the mighty Win, who's obviously out, still in Madeira, waiting for that plane to come on board. Just going to move everything out the way a little bit, and just so you can see the mighty Win's lovely face, because obviously we are here. But like I say, we've still got one or two little jobs to do before we get into today's news. I was just showing Win some of the things in the green room there, and that's what I'd left up on the screen. So apologies for the start of that. Um, but yeah, let's do some welcomes before we go any further. Welcome to everybody across all the platforms. Thanks to all the mods in the background. Don't forget to hit that like button if you enjoy the show. Just helps us get further as a channel to other NUFC supporters. Subscribe, it's totally free. Hit the bell for any future content. And like I say, we do stuff all of the time, all through the week, different shows. So if you hit the bell, you will be notified when the next video is available. If you want to support us and become a member, you can use that as for a small monthly fee. You get a chance to win a prize, and obviously there's behind the scenes members only content. If you want to question us, put a Q in front of the question, and we'll talk about it in the chat. Again, apologies if we don't mention everybody's chat. We've only got a limited amount of time, especially with Win today, who's preparing to fly home. And like I say, but if you want to guarantee it, you can use the $ and then follow the instructions, and that will guarantee you message to be read out. Any new member or any gifted new members will be highlighted and thanked as we go on. And again, if you've got 5 minutes and you want a little read, don't forget to have a quick look at our webpage, nufctalk.tv. It's ad-free. We do it for the love of the club, but we will only put it up there as we get the source, and it's a relevant source. So, my friend, having a nice morning before your flight home, your last few
Yeah,
hours in Madeira.
it's a bit chaotic because we're in kind of limbo now. We obviously had to check out at 11 o'clock. So we've got no room. So as a consequence, I'm sitting in this little cafe just outside the hotel where I've got a little bit of peace and quiet, but there could be some traffic noise. But all in all, I'm just sitting back and basking in being joint second in the Premiership after four
Absolutely.
games.
Yeah, it is a strange one because
We
obviously,
have to clapping away.
yeah, it's really weird because, like I say, we did the just under a 3 hour show last night, and um, it's been one of those situations where even though we are 10 points in, and I saw a little news article this morning about if we'd have gambled in June and not sold and taken the 10 points potential uh, reduction in points, um, we would have started obviously. There we'd be on 0 points because we're 10 points in, but we'd still be above Everton. So there's a positive note. So it's really weird, isn't it? When you look at it, we could have been in that real strange situation of being bottom of the table because of financial rulings. But now we find ourselves in third spot or joint second, if you want to be pedantic, and we haven't really played well at all. But we did mention yesterday about certain individuals coming onto the field and obviously making a bit of a difference. And one of those players, as we mentioned there and then, was the likes of Joe Willock, who for me did extremely well. When he came on, he was, like I say, he was the game changer, if you like, um, but not to the point of taking, taking everything down. He was the one who wanted to get the ball up in the field as soon as he possibly could. He didn't want to make it look like he was doing anything special. He just seemed to wanted to take the ball into the positive zone, away from the negative space, if you like, get the pressure off us, and everything come from him regarding the chances created. And as you can see on this um, track that we've got here, from the most created chances in week 4, he is third. Well, joint second behind Kevin De Bruyne. Now, that's not bad for me coming on at half time. Most of these guys on this list had a full game to actually get these numbers. And even though he only had 45 minutes, or just over 45 minutes, if you count the 8 minutes of extra time, he drops in at number 3. Any surprises for you, Win?
Listen, I'm just as always. I'm looking at the positive. Last season, we got beat at Bournemouth. This season, we got a point. Last season, we drew at Wolves. This time, we've got 3 points, so that's 4 points better off than last season. Last season, home game against newly promoted club Luton, we got a point. This season, we got 3 points. So already, based on last season's results, we're 7 points better off than we were last season with the same fixtures. And that's, as I think we'll all agree, without playing as well as we know we can. So to me, it's just the only way is up. As I said yesterday, I was disappointed with the lineup. I thought it showed a lack of bravery or whatever as far as Eddie was concerned. But as you were saying on the preview show, you know, Eddie likes to keep some strength on the bench, whereas I like all my meat on the grill. And you can argue that, you know, his way has worked. You know, the results speak for themselves. Long may it continue. You know, let's see what happens at Fulham.
Yeah, exactly.
More
I mean,
of the same.
you know, like, if you were just to look at the table, it's like it's nice reading because, you know, we always say about the eye candy and how teams are performing. Now, for us to be in third position and obviously played 4 now, and you can actually honestly say that in all 4 games we haven't got running at all.
No.
And when you look
Never
at
get
the numbers,
that, though.
what's that?
Never get sick of looking at that.
No, well, that's what I'm
Table.
saying. When you think of like the likes of Man City, are obviously 4 out of 4 now. You could say that they've hit the road as we all expected them to, with the depth and width of their squad. There's no reasons why they don't do what they're doing. But when you look at the other big hitters around us, you know, the likes of Arsenal and Liverpool, it's nice to be in amongst these other big teams that have also got the width and depth that we just haven't. But what we saw yesterday again was the fact that now our squad is getting wider. With a little bit more talent, there's still always going to be question marks, and that's how, like I say, this is where Eddie Howe's going to start getting the best out of the lads and potentially moving us forward. But it was an interesting game, and there was a couple of things that I saw yesterday that I thought was interesting. Obviously, there was the Eddie post-match interview. I'd seen some of the words that were spoken about in the post-match interviews with like Alan Shearer and things like that, where obviously there was a question about the relationship between Eddie and Paul Mitchell, how that's got to change and things like that. So that's something else that I think probably on Wednesday when I actually make a little bit of inroads regarding that. We have to pick the bones out of it at some point, I would imagine. But this is what more or less Eddie was saying at the end of the game. And it's a bit small on the screen, but it reads, it falls into line with the other games. We have played really well in passages, but not consistently in the same all the way through. What shone through today was the ability to find a way to win from a losing position. We had not done that regularly enough, so loads of positive signs, and we can still get better. But I think it was a step forward in terms of level of performance. Now, I suppose, like I said, we never expect him to slate the players. We never expect him to obviously come on board and just say, you know, you're bad. When he made the made the changes. He also said, like, this isn't a knock about the lads that come off. It was more the fact that he wanted a more positive approach for us going forward. He felt as though the game was breaking down at certain points, which was obviously having a negative effect on the way he wanted to play. So, for me, he said all the right notes. He made the right decisions when we didn't expect it, did we? Because we said Eddie's not one for changing too quick. He always goes to the 60-minute mark and then makes a decision. So it was obviously obvious to him what we could all see yesterday, and he's changed it, and he's had the balls to change it, which is something that we haven't had from Eddie for a long time.
Yeah, like I said, the two things at the start of the season that I said I wanted Eddie to improve upon. One was team selection, which to me he hasn't done, but the other one was in-game management. And he certainly did that yesterday, as opposed to waiting until 60, 70 minutes before making any changes. Very proactive, half-time, get the right players on, who for me should have been on at the start, but that's by the by. Not necessarily Willock, by the way, because I think J7 is going through a bad spell, right enough. But I think there's a good chance against Fulham that we might see a Tenali, Bruno, Willock midfield, and I think that might be a good thing.
Yeah. I do think there needs to be a little bit of a change, if I'm honest, because unfortunately we've become very easy to predict in the midfield. And like we were all saying yesterday, it wasn't Bruno's best game. And he did seem to go missing in pockets. But was it the fact that we were having poor games from both his counterparts in J7 and Longstaff? They weren't having a great game. So was it more a class or more a case of him just saying, you know what, I need to sit back here and just pick up the holes that are being left by the other two lads, or was it the fact that it was tactical by the manager? And the manager told him to do a specific job on certain individuals, make sure they're not in the game as much, and something like that. So, I mean, we will never know. But there was quite a nice picture of a couple of our senior men after the game that were seen celebrating the win. And I must admit, when I saw this, it did make me a little bit of a laugh going forward, because obviously these lads in the last few days, well, especially the last 2 weeks, you could say, was definitely been in the limelight. So here we go. We've got Pete Silverstone and Mr. Hills having a celebratory bucket meal post match yesterday. So they obviously felt a little bit hungry on the way home, and they were spotted in KFC. So that's not something that you see every day. But it's like I said, at the end of the day, we can be jovial of it, but there is obviously some concern still amongst the backroom staff and
well, I think what was
manager.
Remember yesterday during the match when Wolves went 1-up, the camera went to the stands and focused on Eales, Mitchell, and Bunce sitting there, and I can't help but feel that they were looking quite chuffed at the thought that we were getting beat 1-0. And then when we took the lead, they showed them again, and they weren't looking quite so smug.
Yeah.
No, I don't think that's a good thing at all. I do not think that's a good thing, because, as I've said before, for a club to do anything, everybody has to be singing from the same hymn sheet. And it's clear now, I think, that everybody isn't. So somebody needs to rattle some cages and get some heads knocked together, and let's get back to everybody pulling in the same direction, because we've got off to a fantastic start, and to think that anything behind the scenes is going to interrupt that fantastic start. It's not good.
Yeah, I agree, and it was interesting to hear what Shearer had to say alongside Glenn Hoddle and Wrighty when he was being questioned about what's happened over the last few weeks, and all of the panel, Shearer, Wrighty, and Hoddle said, there's got to be a relationship between your DOF or whatever you want to call them, sporting director or director of football. I mean, there's so many different names for these guys. Yeah, exactly. There's so many different names for these guys, but they've all got to have a relationship. Now, the one thing that's different that we can all agree on that, out of the top 4, 5, 6 teams in the league, in the Premier League, Eddie Howe is the only one that hasn't been picked by the director of football or the sporting director. Is that one of the reasons? His relationship, as we all know, with Amanda and Mairdad was excellent because they're the ones who got him in the job. But obviously Mitchell's come in after Eddie. So there's obviously some issues that these guys have got to try and align. Sorry?
Eels came in after Eddie as well.
Yeah, but Eels was still already there, wasn't he? But he just changed roles.
No,
because it was all part of the same. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But it was all part of the same thing, wasn't it?
Amanda and Mairdad appointed Eels.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But it was all part of the same window. What I'm saying is, they were building a backroom staff and a head coach to go forward.
Yeah.
So it was all directed from Amanda and Mairdad. Now, obviously, with Mitchell coming in now in the background, it has nothing to do with that window. And obviously, Mitchell now obviously feels like the odd one out because he's got a plan which doesn't quite sit with Eddie's plan. And it was really funny because obviously one of our old cult heroes, Les Ferdinand, made a point about where the Chronicle have interviewed him, and he's put down like about the unfit for purpose, and Ferdinand knows why Mitchell made the comments he did. He said, but when you read through it, it doesn't really highlight why he made these things, but he does go to say, when asked if Newcastle need to be careful when dealing with Howe's feelings, Ferdinand, speaking on Sky Sports, said, I think they do. They don't want to upset the apple cart. They have brought a new sporting director in. They have probably given him a job description on what they want him to do in terms of why they brought him into the football club. I know Paul Mitchell. I have spoken to him on many occasions, and I know his way of being a sporting director is by getting value for the club. I know in the past when Newcastle were down in the lower echelons of the Premier League, we needed to bring players in with the experience to get them out of that problem. They have done that now. Now what they need is value, because if you don't do that, it brings players in with the value. You are going to end up selling your best players to meet the PSR FFP rules. And by doing that, it means you're selling your best players. That's not what you want to do. So you have to bring in players that will add value to your club. Now, again, that's something that we alluded to a couple of weeks back, wasn't it?
That said that, and he went on to say that it's still the head coaches has to be happy with whichever player that come in. It's no good giving him a player that he doesn't want to work with, that he doesn't think will improve the club. But furthermore, the one thing that equation fails to bring into account is revenue. And one of the biggest things we need to do now is increase the revenue, because that then prevents you having to sell players. If you've got the revenue coming in, you can afford to buy the players.
Yeah.
And I think it's just a matter of time now.
It's really strange because yeah.
Go on.
No, I was saying it's really strange because, like what you've just said there, you're absolutely right. We've still got to have the revenue, but it's like everything else. Les goes on to say about when he was at QPR and worked under the first team or under 21s or under 18s, he didn't speak to the manager because it's all about the development. But obviously, somebody coming into the first team, you have to have some conversation with the manager because the player coming in needs to fit the team going forward without any disruption within the side. And he says so. The idea of Mitchell and Howe not actually having these speaking sessions through a week-to-week basis, because what we've got to plan for now is obviously the January window. So there's got to be names put down on a sheet that they can both agree with. That's going to move the club forward. We already know that Mitchell's working really hard with the academy players. He's already brought in umpteen players that really look like they've got the ability to move forward, whether that's with Newcastle, but who knows? But again, it's about that, having that valuable asset that potentially could bring in a few quid if, when it comes to looking at them for the first team, if they're not in the plans, then there's no point in keeping them like we've done with other younger aspects in the club. So it was an interesting read. So if anybody wants to have a look at that, have a look at the Chronicle because it's a release in there. But like I say, if you want to dig a little bit deeper, then go and have a look at the Alan Shearer one, and I can't remember what that was on. But he was being interviewed alongside Hoddle. I saw it on YouTube. So if you have a look on YouTube, if you want to look at that, it's on there. But like I said, there was a deep discussion about relationships and so on and so on. So going on to today's news, there's been
that discussion that you're referring to there with Shearer and Hoddle. It was noticeable to me that Hoddle was more or less saying if it was up to him, he would definitely find some way of having Gordon and Barnes on the pitch with Isaac. He said that, that's my big front three, BIG, either Gordon, and I think that's what we have to persevere with.
Yeah, I agree.
I think
there's
the triumvirate, they will only get better the more they play together, the more and especially with Willock. If Willock can stay fit, big if, but if he can stay fit, having him and J7 as options to link the midfield to that front three can only be good for us going forward. It's just getting that chemistry right, and
absolutely.
on the basis that we're getting results now where that chemistry isn't absolutely spot on. When it does finally gel, which we obviously will hope it will, it's onwards and upwards, isn't it?
Yeah. So, like I say, I know you've got a small screen because you're working off your phone, buddy. So I'll just describe what's there. So this is from SofaScore, and you can see what Eddie was alluding to from his initial conversation post match. We started off really well, then obviously started to drop back, gave them a little bit of possession. But again, in these first 20 minutes, apart from a little bit of them coming at us where we were losing the ball regularly, we dominated the first 20 plus minutes with very little attack from the home team. And then there was a couple of short spells where they had 10 minutes and then we seemed to gain momentum again. And it was at this point here, during this momentum shift, where we started to push a couple of more players forward, and the likes of Lewis Hall then was trying to support Longstaff going forward. And it just changed the game because obviously there was, I think there was 3 passes in the end that came from the 20-yard defensive area where it was Longstaff's ball was intercepted. The ball was moved forward to Cunha, who moved it forward again. Swift pass to Larson, who'd made a great little arching run down to the left back position, which is where obviously Lewis Hall was found out of position. He used his power to get past Burns, who then obviously got nutmegged, and the rest is history. Lamina found him wide open. But again, if you look at the momentum in the second half, when we made the changes,
Gary, there's fingers being pointed at Burn there for allegedly doing something wrong. But Byrne actually does everything right. He keeps him out there. He slows the player down. And in reality, the time that Byrne created by keeping the Wolves player on the right wing should, in theory, have given everybody a chance to get back and be in a far better position to defend than what we actually ended up being when it was Gimaris, actually, Bruno, who was the last one coming back. And again, that's because, as I said yesterday, because Longstaff tracked the wrong player when he lost the ball. Instead of staying the player who dispossessed him effectively, he got distracted to the right where the player was already marked by Lewis Hall. And then by the time he decided to recover, he was 20 yards behind the player.
Yeah. I mean, I'm not pointing the finger directly at Byrne.
Byrne did okay for me.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. But if you look at Byrne's body position, and we all say about standing up to the player, when Larson takes him out wide, and it's Larson's first touch, there is a point where Byrne stands him up and gives him a little bit of an issue. Because then what happens is Byrne then, his momentum, is going into Larson's body rather than just standing up and saying to Larson, come on, which way do you want to take me? And running with him. His momentum takes him into the body of Larson, by which time Larson then can clear the ball down, and then it's just a game of chase me. And luckily, Larson isn't that quick. So Byrne was able to keep up with him. But then he was always behind the ball. So instead of, he was trying to get goal side, he then tries to block it, and luckily for Wolves, it goes through his legs. Momentum of both Bruno, as you've mentioned, and Shaw then was running back towards their goal line, and the ball runs right past them to the lad at the back post, Lamina, who has an easy tap in. And I'm not blaming Byrne. All I'm saying to you is it was just that momentum of the attack where we had overcommitted players going forward that left a large pockets of space for them to attack, and it was that simple breakdown for me. And I think that's where we've got to we've got to become better. And for me, like I said, that was the risk of both having Lewis Hall and Tino on the team at the same time. Now, do you remember a couple of weeks when we were talking about movement, and you were questioning whether I was actually right about what I said to you about Lewis Hall dropping into midfield on that tactical spreadsheet that I put up. I've got it here. It was a bit of movement that Sanjay Blessing does all by his lonesome, and he does some really good stuff. What was obvious yesterday, what I noticed yesterday, was we did exactly the same, but with Tino. It was inverted across the pitch. Instead of Hall doing it, Hall kept the width, where Tino was the player that always used to keep the width. Yesterday, it seemed very much like Lewis Hall had got the width, and Tino was the inverted. Now, obviously, this is showing you the left-hand side, the way Hall plays. So I just wanted to put it up on the screen again, just to remind people. So, like I say, this was how Eddie Howard set up for Lewis Hall to play more of an inside left back position where he drops into the number 6. If you watch the graphic, if I just try and bring that into view a bit better, you'll see the movement that's created from this setup here. And it's just a case of going the 6. So Longstaff dropping into here. Then you'll see Lewis Hall moving inside, which brings then AG out to the width to get the ball. And you get a very fluid formation. And yesterday we saw Tino doing a very similar line of action where you can see Tino and Jacob Murphy here going up the line. And what you saw yesterday was, if you looked, Jacob and Tino were actually inverted in a more narrower position in this position up the field. Didn't quite work as well as it did during this session against Wolves, unfortunately. But it was nice to see Eddie trying to work on their weakest area, which was Ait Nuri, which obviously he isn't a left back, and it looked like he tried to counteract their weakest point, and it really didn't happen. It didn't work out to Eddie's advantage, unfortunately. So, like I say, I thought that was a well executed plan, but unfortunately, not the right playing staff to execute it. That's what it looked like to me. But it was an interesting one to have a look at. The other, I'm going to move away now because I know you ain't got much time with us, buddy. I don't know whether you've heard the rumor. There's a rumor going out there that we are monitoring this young gentleman for a sale in January.
This Musada.
Ah,
This
Sade.
Musada.
Sade. Can you see him?
Right,
So it
I
looks
can see
like,
him. I can't.
yeah, it's Sade. It looks like his contract's coming to an end, and Bayern aren't willing to extend it by all accounts. Now, obviously, he's been in the Premier League, not done a great deal, but he's only 28 years old, and if we can get him on the free, that would make a lot of difference in my eyes. But like I say, it depends on wages. But that's the rumours out there. There's no major, I would say, no major outlet saying that that's fact. It's just a transfer market thing. So I wouldn't hold any weight to that. We'll have to see how it goes. So Sane is the one that's been touted, and there was also a centre back, and his name has just left my absolutely useless sponge of a brain. Somebody I'd never heard of before, linked with us. So I don't know again whether that's just a rumor. So I'll dig in a little bit deeper on that link to see if there's any truth behind that. And the only real other bits of news, apart from obviously the game yesterday, which we've had a long talk about, was the news of how our lads have been getting on their travels. Because obviously now we all know that there's a couple of lads that have been out on loan, and there's a couple of things that I hadn't realised that was happening. So, starting with Jamal Lewis. Jamal Lewis, a successful debut on Sunday for a defender, brought on in the 73rd minute for Sao Paulo's 1-0 victory away to Cruzeiro in the Brazil Serie A. So he's made his debut out there in Brazil, in the Brazilian leagues, and was successful. Harrison Ashby at QPR, the fullback, remained on the bench at the R's draw 1-1 at Sheffield Wednesday. So again, an unused sub. Max Thompson, again, the goalkeeper, was unused substitute at the Spirits. Lost 1-0 to Port Vale in League Two. Joe White at the MK Dons. The midfielder made his Dons debut on 72 minutes. Replacement on Saturday. Unfortunately, he's lost. The team still lost 3-0 to bitter rivals AFC Wimbledon. Miodrag Pivos, there was no sign of him for Willem 2, who were defeated 3-0 by Valvik on the Eredivisie on Sunday. So again, no sign of Pivas. Jamie Miley, unfortunately, has underwent a hernia operation last week after picking up an injury on his Newport debut the week before. So unfortunately, he's been out with an injury regarding his developments out at Newport. But apparently, for his debut, he played reasonably well. Got some good stats. Obviously, we spoke briefly about the 5-1 hammering of the under-18s at the academy. Again, team looks like it's been changed around a little bit to try and suit guys going out on international duty, and the only real name that was mentioned really that had a half decent game was Munda. But apart from that, it just seemed like it was a bit one-way traffic, if I'm honest. So that'll be an interesting one. If you look at the women's side of things, they had a free hit this week with no game, as there's the 11 teams in the championship, the women's championship. so they had a free week this week. So I haven't got any information on them, and I'm sure Win isn't that bothered anyway. So, like I said, it was an interesting weekend, but that is literally all the news that I've got. I will have a quick look at what's out there regarding this defender. Like I say, I had his name on the tip of my tongue, and I was going to say it, but like I say, I don't know how true it is. So it'll be interesting to see where we are. So I'm just going to have a quick look at some of the questions that's out there, so I can give you guys some. The women's were supposed to be playing Reading, but they pulled out. Oh, there you go. That was from Mason. So apparently, have the Reading team pulled out the league altogether? Is that because of the financial situation, or is that just the fact that they had other issues? There's some good stuff again from you guys in the chat. So let's go through a couple of them, and I can see where we go. Because, like I say, I know Wynn's got time constraints, so I don't want to keep him too long. Let's have a quick look through some of them. John Shaw, best start since Les and Ginola. Wasn't pretty aside from the goals, but who cares? Team stuck together and on we go. At half time, people were calling for House Ed. It's game of 90 minutes, remember. Yeah, okay. I mean, there were.
Well,
I mean,
we happy clappers are looking good, son.
Absolutely. Stephen NUFC, the table does look great. However, truthfully speaking, we have been awful most every game and lucky to get the results we have. Well, like I say, we sometimes you can play really well and not get the results. How many times have we seen that in the past when we've taken the sword to the opposition and we've come out 1-0 with loss and it's like, how did we lose that?
Especially away from home.
Yeah.
Getting these results away from home is sensational as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I agree.
Because
John Shaw.
I mean, for 60 years we've been rubbish on the road, always.
We've got 10 points whilst playing nowhere near our best and best start since 95-96. So I'm delighted with our start this season. Totally agree, John.
Yep.
Chris has put down, somebody said it yesterday, watch Eddie make the obvious changes and white people now say he's a masterclass. Stephen, there was no Eddie Howe masterclass. Never make subs at half time, and yesterday making those subs was him basically admitting he got it wrong. I think there's probably also a little bit in that as well. Japadoni, Eddie didn't make his subs on 67 minutes yesterday, though. That shows some learning.
Exactly.
So yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, but I'll be honest, Saturdays are the best for me. I hate playing Sundays. The time is good. They spend too much time away from the fam. Rob. So obviously that was, I don't know why that was starred, but it was. So there you go. I've mentioned it anyway. From the coach aspect, only Eddie knows the fitness of how much each player can put out. Do you want to start well? Then both teams are fit and finish well when the op are tiring. Well, I think that's what we said yesterday, Jopadoni. We said, is this the new way that Bunce works? Is he stopping Eddie from, putting these lads to the sword and getting them absolutely knackered where they're at more risk of injury? But it just means that we are a bit slow on the start of the first 5-6 games. And I think there's a plus and minus in front of it.
That's not true, Gary, because all 5 games we've started off really well.
But we haven't continued. That's what I'm saying.
The first 15 minutes or thereabouts, 10 to 20, whatever you want to call it, we've started off really, really well in every game.
Yeah, but we haven't. What I'm trying to say, Win, is the press.
Which you showed, that sort of pressing little graph thing that you had up before showed it, then we're saying to sit back and let them come. And then the object of the exercise is to defend well, which we didn't do. So it cost us. But I think in every game now, we've started off well first 15 minutes and finished well last 15 minutes. So there's always been some left in the tank at the end. And whether that's by design or whatever, I don't know. But it's certainly proven to be effective.
All I'm saying, it's more the identity what we saw last year with the press. It seems to not be as much this year. The intensity to get the ball back
Yeah,
as quick as possible, as high up the park as possible, isn't there. It seems to be more of a shape this season where you keep the tightness, you keep the shape, and you try and break their progression down. And it's just a different tactic being seen. But again, I don't know whether that's advice from Bunce saying let's not go too gungo to start with, because latter stages of the game, as we've seen previously, we have slowed, and gone further back. So you're right. There's
yeah,
probably aspects where we do come into the game bits and bobs, but we certainly need to keep the retention of the ball better, in my eyes. And I think that's what was shown yesterday. PDK, 4 games in, does Howe know his strungish 11? Question mark. Okay. I'm
well,
sure
I
he does.
think he does, but he doesn't want to put it all on the grill.
Yeah, exactly. Foxy said it really quite amazing how Bruno escapes any type of criticism for that goal. Look at the starting position of Bruno and Joe Gomez, and look at the difference 10 seconds later. He was the dummy, and the problem was though, if you look, we all know that when you overcommit players, and like I said, I looked at Hall, I looked at Bruno, I looked at a lot of them. The problem is we all know that Bruno's only got one pace. And because we have no pace getting back, I thought, with Burn going out wide and slowing up whatever his name is, it Lores or Lauren, the lad who was up front for them. Um, he then makes that little bit of a darting run, which just gets a yard in front of Burn. And then by the time that the ball gets crossed to cross, the step over eludes both Bruno and Shaw. But he did do well to get back. He was one of very few trying to get back, and that's why I think people didn't hypercritical point the finger at him, because there was a couple of others in front of him that were faster. Go
Gary,
on, Win.
I'm getting some very anxious looks here. I'm going to have to love you and leave you, kids.
No
Thanks
worry,
for
buddy. Have a safe
joining.
journey home.
Catch you again. It'll be Wednesday now, won't it?
It will, mate. Have a safe journey.
Wednesday lunchtime. All the best. How are the lads?
Take care. See you later, buddy.
Ta-ra.
So yeah, I don't think it was more the fact that nobody was pointing the finger. I think there was a number of players from midfield where they all got slated, and especially from my point of view, I just think there was a number of them that just give up before they even started, and one of them was J7, where he looked stood still on his heels, and it was like hands in the air time. It just wasn't the best game for a few of them yesterday, especially when it was on their counter attack. Terminator Seed has put, because Barnes' technical ability coming in from the left is wasted on the right, and is better than Gordon's, whose pace is suited to going down the outside and on the right. Now, the one thing that I looked at yesterday was the fact that when you've got Ait Nuri for them, who's not a left back, I thought they would have utilised Anthony Gordon's pace to try and get down that right hand side behind him, because we all know he can take players on. You saw that with a little bit of burst of pace on the left hand side. And he got behind them, and obviously that was the time when he created his own chance, coming off unfortunately getting the ball off the post. But he has got the ability to get round the back, and like I say, yesterday for me that was another flaw in the tactical change, where he obviously put Gordon through the middle and didn't even try Asula. And like I said, what happened then is you had 2 players that became anonymous. And that was Gordon and Murphy. Where if you'd have put Gordon on the right hand side and Asula up the middle, even if Asula didn't do anything, you would have certainly got a little bit more tact from the likes of Gordon down the right, and you would have got that inside position from Barnes, which obviously we all know what he did right at the end. So yeah, there's question marks about what happened yesterday, and why it happened, and why hasn't Eddie got the confidence to take the mantle and say, if this guy was no good, why buy him if it's too early yet? Is it all about the fact that Eddie's trying to protect him, overprotect him? But he had the perfect opportunity to even give him 10 minutes just to have a look at him yesterday in competitive football. And it does surprise me that he's not even been allowed onto the pitch as of yet. Um, BT has put down that Gordon and Barnes could cross over during the game and it could confuse the opposition. Well, that's what we said before when they were playing together. It doesn't mean that the guys can just stay on the respective wings. They can alternate during the game because, like you say, that does confuse defenders. It pulls players out of position. So for me, that would have been the perfect tactic. Um, well, Mubarak has said, I fear Eddie Howe is becoming Southgate, playing his favourites. Well, like I said, with only time will tell on that one. Um, I have to love Eddie's blue, red, black, and green pen. Yeah, I used to have one of them at my previous job. Alan McMurray, stop complaining. 2 points off top when we're not playing well. Sign of a good team. Nobody's complaining. We're just critiquing. It's not a complaint. It's a critique. There's a bit of a difference. And like I say, you've got to look at the plus sign, yeah, on behalf because, like I say, we scored 2 amazing goals. But again, we aren't really playing against the big hitters yet, and that's where obviously time will tell. And the last thing we want, if confidence isn't in the team as we speak now, after 4 games and 4 successive results, then when we get hammered, is the body language going to drop even further? And that again could spiral for the rest of the season. So for me, it's about, yes, winning that confidence, build mentality going forward is great. But performance creates the confidence to do the job. And I think you've got to, obviously, if it's not happening, you have to critique the points of where it's not happening. But it's certainly not complaining, buddy. I can't complain from where we've been in the past. This is totally different. Stevie has put down, I'm warming the vocals already. Brilliant result on our away bogey team. We are the champions, my friend. Yeah, good lad. I totally agree, buddy. It's onwards and upwards, hopefully. Now, let's turn that corner. Alan says, Tonali got be a start 11 now, and Barnes, definitely. I think that's a good shout as well. Like we all said at the start, a little bit confused to why. But like I explained before the match, and if you don't believe me, you can go and have a relook at the start of the game. I did say, because obviously me and Geordie Team for Life was having little debate about like obviously the potential of starting your strongest 11, and Geordie Team for Life was saying, well, now I think Longstaff will start and he'll put these guys on the bench. And like I said, the counteracting and the counter argument, if you like, is if you haven't got the men on the bench to change a game and it's not going your way with your big names that are on the pot, then how do you change it? Do you change the formation, the whole shape of the team by trying to get something different out of the game? So, like I said, for me, it's about having the trust. You have to have the trust in him, but it just proves that beyond the 3 in the midfield, potentially Willock, because obviously for me it was Willock that was the game changer yesterday. Even though Barnes hit that wonder goal, it was the chances created, the XG shot up from when he was on the board. And the other surprising one for me, if before I go and highlight a few of the others that's in there, and give me a second just to find this, because I did look at this yesterday. And I was totally surprised, if I'm honest. The other 4 have put a table out for our defensive work rate yesterday, because I was honestly a little bit disgruntled on whether we didn't look great in defence yesterday, and I don't know what it was. Even though we threw our body on the line a few times, we didn't seem to get the balance right. There was a couple of times where we overcommitted, like we said, but even the lads that were covering at the time didn't seem to do a grand job for us. But this one here was a surprise for me. Sorry, it's taken me a little bit of time to find it. Like I say, I've got so many different slides to look through. But this one, like I say, was the one that I would say shocked me. Because we all know he can do it. But like I say, going off what we saw, as you can see, this is the most combined tackles and interceptions this weekend, and you can see there's an array of colours on here from different teams. A lot from Ipswich Town, a lot from Brighton, a couple from Brentford, Southampton, West Ham, Forest. And there you go, right down the bottom was Tino Livramento, who was substituted um, for at least making 5 tackles. And, he's the only player, and he's the lad who got substituted that actually is on this sheet. So, like I said, and I think that just shows it in its entirety, if I'm honest. The fact that our defence wasn't the greatest yesterday, and we could do a lot better. But again, you've got 2 lads that are learning a trade, so we can't be too hard too soon. Um, Liam McFarlane, as Eddie's bashing out the classics and his piano, he knows you don't play all the notes at the beginning. Simple as. Um, but I think we need, again, I think this January window is going to be a window where we really need to have a look at what we are doing going forward now. There has to be some support between both manager and the director of football, whatever you want to call him, Paul Mitchell, because at the end of the day, without the communication between these two, unfortunately, the only thing that's going to happen, it's going to fall. And I don't want to lose Eddie Howe. Like I said, even though I critique some of his ideas and things like that, as a fan, um, I think he's doing an absolutely tremendous job. Where he's took us to where we are now as a team, and like I say, even the players that he's brought in, that were brought in obviously to get us out of that relegation battle. Nobody can fault what he's done regarding the job. But I also know what Mitchell can bring, having seen what he's done in the past. So it's again, to me, it's like I say, have we got 2 immovable rocks that we just need to get together? And if they're both as stubborn as each other, and they just need to, obviously, Darren Eales to do part of his job and bring these boys together and try and get any animosity out of the way. And I think that will be best for all sorted. Oh, Mason, there you go. So obviously, I said yesterday, rest in peace, Gary Shaw, and apparently Villa have just announced that Gary Shaw has passed from being very poorly in hospital. So again, my thoughts and condolences go out to Gary Shaw's family. Great player, was obviously on a lot of the TV back in the day when I was growing up. So a great player. So condolences to all of Gary Shaw's family and friends. Alan McMurtry has said that can Bruno be dropped now if he's fell off his high standard? Get midfield now that could cope, in my opinion. Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I do agree with you. And Bruno's change in his play, like I said, you won't know about Bruno's play because of the players he's got around him. I mean, is he trying to overcompensate for J7 not having a great season? Longstaff to the right of him not having a great season? Until we see him with a full strength midfield, and like I say, the person. I mean, obviously, there's lads in the chat were saying about getting J7 carded against Fulham, so he misses the game in midweek. Like I say, there's got to be some change. There's definitely got to. J7's got to have a kick of the backside for me from the gaffer. He's got to get his head back in the mix because even though he's the general, he's the one who disrupts the opposition play. Sometimes he puts himself in such a precarious situation, and especially he's back chatting and stuff like that. It's gonna be at the detriment to the team. And like I say, when we need him for the big game, and say Man City's just round the corner, the last thing we want is for him to be yellow carded and lost for these games, because that's when you need depth of squad when games aren't going your way. So yeah, it's an interesting one, buddy. Couple more before we call it a day. Foxy, not reading the game. Oh, that's I've already read that one, Foxy. Bruno stays goal side of goal Shah. No issues picking up Lemon. I mean, yeah, as I said, I mean, to me, the speed of that play from Wolves yesterday, even though it wasn't mega fast, it just brought us all out of position. And for some unknown reason, we always seem to be, especially like Shaw, Bruno, all seem to get drawn towards the ball on the left back, right side of the play, and it was like I said, leaving the guy behind. Where was Tino? And again, it just proves how fast when losing possession of the ball. And this is why I was making a point yesterday about possession. When you work on the percentages, if you've got a narrow passage to pass a ball to, the chances of it being intercepted and turned over is higher. And you've overcommitted players, that's when you've got to take the easy option. And if you look at both our goals, and I don't know whether I've got it up on here, I'll have a quick look before I put it on the screen because it wasn't really showing me what I was wanting it to show, and it still isn't really giving me the correct goal, unfortunately. So I will have to give you an idea of what I was talking about. So obviously I can't put the goal, the screenshots up of where the game changed, but with ours it was slow build up. The ball's coming across always to the left hand side. It was driven like literally back to especially for Harvey Barnes, back square, Shaw to Burn up the line. Then Harvey Barnes picks it up after giving it by Willock. He has a turn inside, gets a yard of space and has a shot. But the ball was kept rather than pushing the ball forward quickly. The ball was kept even by going backwards. And I know there's a lot of supporters out there that argue about being negative, but when we've got the ball, they can't score, and it proves that yesterday. Longstaff took a risk by a percentage ball that was cut out, and it was quickly distributed to the forward line, and we conceded. So sometimes you have to play that happy medium, and by retaining the ball, it just means that the opposition cannot score. It's simple when you play the game simply, and that's how I always used to work on. Play the way you're facing. Opposition haven't got the ball; they can't hurt you. Just having a quick look at some. Amrit is in the chat. Hi, buddy. Hi, Gary. Great show today. Main takeaway: we are up there and haven't even started playing yet. I think we are an exciting time in the future. Will be bright. Buddy, I can't agree more, mate. That's what I said. Just look at we are third in the table, joint second, if you want to be pedantic. And we are still not hitting the high notes. And that's what I said. A couple of more players in this side, and things could be totally different. We can certainly be knocking on the door come the end of the season if we continue this vein. So for me, it is a very, very positive day. David T, on this beautiful day, isn't it lovely feeling? Now we have still a couple of gears still to go through. Absolutely, mate. That's exactly what we just said. There's still a lot of time for us to do something. You guys are just having a bit of a chat amongst yourselves, just having. There you go. I'm going to put that one up on the screen. Thank you, Rosie. So I'm just looking at some of the comments. Apologies. I know I'm live, but obviously by the time I've read some of these, I don't realise that you guys are just having a bit of a chat amongst yourselves. So I'm trying to get you as many on the screen to chat about as I can. And there you go. That's probably the last but one. What a result. Omar Sadiq, thank you, mate. What a result. Next game, I would drop Joe and play Willock, Tonali and Bruno. Well, like I said, got to balance the midfield. Like I say, you've got two hyper committed players there with Willock and Tonali. Both like to get into the box. Both like to get the ball progression high up the field really quickly. So again, you're leaving Bruno isolated in midfield. So again, you have to look at the opposition, the tactic that they play, and try and work out a happy medium for that. But I agree. I thought Willock yesterday was the game changer. I don't think Tonali was the game changer, but what Tonali gave us was a little bit more balance. There was a lot more footings. There was a lot more aggression on the ball. Passing was positive. And he contributed definitely in the defensive third. So for me, like I say, you're more than right. But Eddie has to balance the side. When one goes, one stays, and vice versa. But you do get a nice balance between the two of them. But you have to be very, very careful seeing them both let loose from the leashes because, like I say, we become very vulnerable in midfield. But you're absolutely right, mate. I think there's a lot of positives to take out of this. BT has put also Ferdinand said that Newcastle have a certain amount of money, say 60 million, and look for players who have the ability and character that would fit into the squad. Well, this is what I'm saying. I mean, again, not having anything to clarify the amount of money we've got. We've put in around 60 million pound for Gay, so there's certainly that amount of money out there for us to play with. But it's whether you want to put it all on one player, knowing full well that we have got weaknesses in other areas. So, as we stated before, is it worth that double in getting a little bit more of a right-sided player? Is it to get a less centre half? But again, this is what Mitchell and Eddie Howe, up until the January window comes, have to agree on what tactic they are going to have going forward. And like I say, it's not something that can be easily clarified, and it's certainly not something that we can take for granted. A couple of shout outs. It's Alexander Mitrovic's birthday today. Obviously, a former Newcastle striker who obviously graced us in his time here. So I just wishing him happy birthday. Couple of other things to note on this day. Back in '95, Newcastle beat Manchester City 3-1 with a brace from Sir Les and Peter Beardsley from the penalty spot. Newcastle remains top of the table back then. So again, it has a feeling of being back in the glory days, and I want to keep that feeling. But I also want to see the lads performing at a better level because, like I say, you are going to be much more suited when we are playing really good football rather than trying to get the win out of nowhere. And like I say, yesterday, people will always say we are lucky. People will always say it wasn't deserved. And if you look at the XG, which is something that I noticed, the XG yesterday for the game was them just being under or just on one goal, and us being, I think it was 1.22 on XG, so just above a goal. So again, if you go on stats, the 1-1 that is like 64% chance of happening in this game was very much on the cards. But I think the one thing that changed the game was the fact that we were able just to give a couple of chances, which were created by this guy, and obviously he took one of them. Unfortunately, he didn't score right in the last minute. But again, I can't take anything away from the guy's strike. It was an amazing strike, and it got us the 3 points. Whether we deserved it or we didn't, we've got them there. And for me, it's a fitting way to say goodbye. And because, like, I am nowhere near the stature of this lad, I'm going to leave him on the screen just to say goodbye to you guys. Thanks to everybody watching. Thanks to everybody that's contributed to the show with all your chats. Condolences to Gary Shaw's family. I hope everything goes as planned for the rest of your day. To all the viewers out there that have watched, thank you very much. Don't forget to smash the like and the subscribe to any of the new guys that are coming on board. Until the next show, I'll see you soon. Take care all.